Hello and welcome back to the Dream Series, episode number 5. Now, I'm actually gonna talk about this time again about 3 dreams. Just like I think I did last time, but I'm not sure anymore. And it's gonna be 1 nightmare plus 2 regular dreams, I suppose. All of these dreams actually happened today or tonight, I suppose. Well, morning more like. Because I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I couldn't sleep anymore, but that's besides the point. That's why I might sound a little bit tired in this video. But don't bother, I hope it doesn't bother you too much. And I'll try to get immediately into dreams so I don't have to make these videos that long anymore. I don't think it's necessary to do them as long as they were right now, so I'll just start right off with the first dream. I'm not sure which one to choose first, but I guess I'll go with the Hulk dream. I named it because there was Hulk in it. But the dream essentially starts in this building that was on fire for some reason, and there was Hulk, that he was bashing the building to pieces, and we were supposed to run away. We were some sort of squad, I guess of special ops or something. We had like the entire gear except for the helmets, because you know, helmets aren't necessary. And there was the actor of what's he called, of the what's he called? He's not James Bond, he's Jason Bourne, right? Is that the name? I think it is. It's that guy that kinda is some sort of a special agent that forgot something, his memories or something. I'm not sure about that, but essentially he was there as well. And there was the other guy, was the from the CSI Los Angeles, I believe. G, or whatever the hell his character was called there. I don't know the actor's name, unfortunately. Nor do I know the other actor's name, to be honest, but... Anyway, and there was some chick. I don't even know who she was. I can't recall it all. The only thing I know that we chose to go with an elevator, but the elevator wasn't there because it was destroyed, so we had to rappel down, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 floors to get to the ground floor so we could exit. And we knew that as soon as we start rappelling, since we would have to hang our ropes, that Hulk would maybe notice the ropes and try to destroy them or something. I guess he was angry, as he usually is. But fortunately, by the time he noticed our ropes, we were basically already down there. So even though he cut them, apparently, we were already down there, but he noticed that we were trying to escape, so he cut us off before the exit. But we managed to talk our way out, I don't know how, and exited the building, and now dream logic kicks in, and we were now in front of my house. Not, the building was no longer there, we were just in front of my house. And Hulk decided to stab. Yes, stab, he had a knife. I don't know, doesn't make any fucking sense, it doesn't matter. The G character, I'll just refer to him as that from now on, the G character, a few times in the gut, you know. And there was some other dude now all of a sudden who locked the doors behind us, which I was going to send the other people in so I could fight Hulk, because I said I was gonna kill him now because he was pissing me off. I healed the G character with just saying, yeah, he's not gonna die. I healed him, basically. That's how healing works in dreams. You just say, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and then it happens. And I started fighting Hulk. Obviously, he was pretty big. He wasn't as big as in the movies, but he was like 2 humans worth of height and buff as fuck. But that doesn't matter to me because I don't look at that when in a dream. Even though I didn't recognize a dream, I still automatically become powerful whenever I feel like it. I don't know. I get powers that I don't usually have, but in a dream I can manifest them because of how often I used to control dreams, so some of these powers remained to be like a go-to thing, even though this time I used a pretty unusual power, and that was the power to nullify momentum. That's what I called it, or momentum cancelling. I'm not sure what I called it, but essentially when Hulk would try to punch me, I would completely nullify his momentum, Even though it would look like he still punched me, basically the force behind the punch would be nullified and it would be nothing. And then at the same time, I could improve my own momentum by accelerating it, so that when I punched him, he would fly away like a ragdoll. And essentially, we were fighting for a little bit like that. He tried to fight me, but really he couldn't do anything. I was tossing him around like a little boy, I don't know. Just grabbing him and tossing him, punching him very strong. And I was telling him to surrender because I didn't really want to kill him. In the end, I guess I changed my mind. But he consisted with his anger and he wanted to fight on, even though, oh Jesus Christ, even though he didn't stand a chance. And at that point I switched to a different type of power, which still cancelled his momentum, but it also accelerated. I called it accelerated time, even though it wasn't accelerated. It was more like going backwards. I was essentially punching him into the past. So he became smaller every time I punched him. And the last time I punched him, he flew into some kind of a puddle that was in the middle of the ground, but it was a puddle that was really deep. Even the Hulk was like fully submerged, but he was like a lot smaller now. He essentially turned into a, I would say like a 10-year-old kid, but Hulk version. Still buff as fuck. And he was basically submerged, but he was still able to talk, even though his mouth was literally under the water. I could still understand him, and yes, he could talk. He wasn't the version of Hulk that basically doesn't talk much. He talked normally, but he didn't sound threatening or anything, that he doesn't want to surrender. But then this chick that I was talking about, that I don't know who the fuck she is, came and talked to him and tried to reason with him that he should surrender and that it'll be fine or whatever. So he finally did, but when he emerged from the puddle, he was shocked that now he was basically a little kid again, because I punched him back in time. And that's essentially where the first dream ends. It was more like a brawl with Hulk, I guess. I don't know how exciting it is to listen to these dreams, but like I said, I do this series primarily for the reason of remembering these dreams better. We will move right on to the second normal dream. I guess I'll put the nightmare at the end, since that's what I usually do, like a bonus nightmare, I suppose. Now, what was the second dream I was gonna tell you? I completely forgot, to be honest. Oh yeah, the pirate one. I call it the pirate, even though it wasn't necessarily about pirates. But it took place on a beach, I suppose. It was a sandy beach, but there was like a settlement right next to it. The settlement, it looked like, I don't know what to compare it to. I know that in some video game or in some movie I've seen something like that. It was a settlement essentially built out of ship parts. And it was muddy on the inside. It, like, the ground was muddy and it looked dirty. All the buildings looked old. It was a wooden structures, but that was also like boats incorporated, but not big boats like those you would usually have to row with. You would have to have those paddles and row. It wasn't like the massive ships that pirates would use, but it still kind of gave off the feeling of some kind of a pirate settlement, even though there was no people with parrots and whatnot. And essentially, the entire point of this dream was that there were several classes of people. I suppose, like an MMORPG, there was people that dual-wielded pistols. I don't know how to pronounce that right. And there was people who wielded rifles, but apparently those who were called marksmen with the rifles were pretty rare and were dying out, basically. The class was dying out. Most people were switching to pistols because they were more efficient. And usually you would fight at a range that you wouldn't really require a rifle or something like that. I don't recall what it was. But I was one of the rifle people, I suppose, the marksman. Actually, I wasn't yet. I was trying to become one of those. So I would always challenge this ghost, which apparently was like a trial for... to become the marksman, you would have to defeat this ghost of an old lady. Even though it sounds pretty simple, she was crazy. I mean crazy. She was trying to stop you from completing this. And basically you would start the trial, in a sense, by coming to this house, which had this rifle in it. And you would take the rifle, and as soon as you did, this lady would attack you. And the way she attacked was basically, she would in front of the place that you would be, there was basically a window, I suppose, in this place, but it didn't have glass or anything. It was just like a hole in the wall, and through this hole you would have a view across onto a different building that had like 2 floors, I guess. No, there's a ground floor and then there's the first floor. So actually, yeah, 2 floors, the ground floor and the first floor. And it had a deck, I suppose, type of thing. Or a terrace, how the hell did you say that? I think it sticks out and it's not covered. It has only a roof. So you can like be outside but still be under a roof, I don't know. And she would start screaming and running from that direction towards the stairs that led to the ground floor, and then she would run towards the building where you were supposed to be. And this was actually quite scary because she was really screaming loudly, and she looked like those ghosts from Lord of the Rings, kind of greenish, but translucent at the same time. And she would come in screaming, and you were supposed to shoot her a few times, and the rifle you had would only have 1 bullet at a time. It kind of reloaded like a marksman pistol, I suppose, or one of those air guns, which you use to shoot those small metal pellets. You'd have to like bend the rifle, and then it would eject the cartridge from the hole once you put it apart, basically, and then you would put another cartridge in and then close it. That's how it basically worked, but apparently the barrel was broken or something, and you would have to hold it all the time to not open on accident, because it would open all the time, so you had to hold it so you could actually shoot. And the first time I did the test, I failed miserably because I didn't even shoot while she was passing by, so she easily got into my little hut thingy and basically defeated me. I don't recall how she defeated me. I guess she just came to the hut and she won or something. So I tried it a few other times, but sometimes it wouldn't even be her. And the last time I tried it with the hut, it wasn't her, it was some kind of a kid, which I shot in the face. He was also like a ghost. So when I shot him at the place where he was shot, essentially it was like the sand started pouring out. Or well, not pouring out, more like the place became sandy where I shot him. And the sand was like circling around, and I defeated this kid, which was apparently another ghost. But of course, that wasn't enough. But coincidentally, at the same time, some other kid became a dual wielding, I guess, with the pistols, that class. And we were celebrating that, and we were at the beach swimming. And at some point, this like old lady showed up. That was actually the old lady ghost, but she was in disguise, and she said like that I shouldn't be celebrating because I failed every single time, and she started like saying that defeating the other ghost is not good enough to become like the marksman or whatever. And then she decided to attack me, and for some reason I still had the rifle there, my rifle to fight. So I finally shot her in the face, but that wasn't enough because she's apparently stronger than that. So she charged me, and I freaking punched her with a rifle, like with the butt, I guess, of the rifle, butt end. And she went a bit like staggered, so I could reload. And that happened a few times, where I would just swing my rifle if she got close, and I would reload when I had the time. And I shot her the final time, and after that she turned from the evil ghost, I suppose, or the greenish ghost, to a normal looking ghost. She had all the colors of a person, but she was still kind of translucent, and she said she looked like a normal grandma now. She said that I finally passed it and she believed in me all along or something like that. She's not actually the evil spirit, she's just has to act like that for the trial or whatever, I don't know. So I essentially passed the trial, and then basically I woke up very soon after that. I don't recall what I did in the final moments of the dream. So this one actually had a pretty good ending in terms of like completion. It did have like some type of complete story that very rarely happens. That's why it was interesting to me, because usually they end abruptly in the middle of something. Okay, 14 minutes, that's pretty quick. That's what we want. We want these videos to be shorter, because there's no point in me chatting with you throughout the video. And then I can more easily get the footage for the background as well, because I don't have to record for a million years. I can, like 20 minutes recording isn't that bad, I suppose. So we'll move on to the final nightmare, I guess. Final dream that is a nightmare. And this nightmare was one of the types I hated the most, which is the Inception nightmare, I call them. It's when you think you woke up from a nightmare, but you didn't. I also have Inception dreams where I think I woke up from a dream, but I didn't. But those I actually kind of like. But this one I don't like because you come from one nightmare straight into the other nightmare, which is kind of annoying and sometimes pretty terrifying since you expect that you wake up, but you don't. It's not like one of those stories where people say that they can still, even after they got scared shitless, they can still be in a nightmare. No, once I get scared shitless, I wake up, but I still remain in a nightmare, even though I think I woke up. It's different, I think. So this was one of those nightmares. And the only thing I remember is that I woke up in my bed inside the nightmare. I didn't know it was a nightmare at the time. I woke up and I was thirsty because I was thirsty in real life, which I knew after I woke up from the nightmare for real. But at that time I didn't know that. I thought that I just woke up and I was thirsty, so I stood up and went to my table where I keep my, I guess you could call it a glass. It's more like a pint, which I pour water in so I can drink during the day. I don't have to constantly walk to the kitchen or somewhere to get a glass of drink, so I have one glass with me all the time, so I could always drink water. And I started drinking from this glass, even though it didn't look like it had that much water in it. Apparently I was drinking for quite some time, like 5 or 6 seconds, when I had this bad feeling, I guess, that I was being, not watched, but that there was something behind me that I should turn around. And I did. There was nothing behind me, but I had a bad feeling coming from below my bed. So for some reason I approached and poured some water, like swung my pint, I guess, of water and spread some water under the bed, and that apparently triggered the whatever the hell was under it. It kind of looked like a shadow person from like horror stories. It looked like a shadow that was in the shape of a person started coming out of below my bed. And then when that happened, I basically lost control of the dream entirely, which happens when I'm afraid. And everything started spinning, like my entire surroundings started spinning. I felt like I'm losing balance. I fell down and I couldn't even see, everything was blurry. And I heard this thing approach me, I heard the footsteps. And then it's when I woke up, or at least I thought I woke up, but I didn't. I was again in my bed, but then suddenly I was yanked out of my bed by something and I was scared shitless again, but then I suddenly appeared in this bathroom looking place. It kind of looked like a public bathroom, you know, with a bunch of stalls and shit. And it had like plates, I guess, for the floor, you know, those shiny ones, white ones. Well, white-ish, they weren't completely white. And there was a bunch of stalls, so I decided for some reason to climb on top of a stall to see better, and this bathroom had some sort of an infinite effect. I don't know what else to call it. Wherever I would go, it would seem that there's always more, like stalls, and it would shape in a different directions. It kind of looked like it had a bunch of turns, but it was always the same shit. Just bathroom stalls, and here and there was like a little bit of free space, I guess, in between. But this is where the fucked up part starts. There was also mirrors on the wall. Here and there, of course, they weren't everywhere. Those big mirrors you have at public bathrooms that usually have sinks under them, but there was no sinks. There was just mirrors. And when I looked into the mirrors, there was someone behind me. It kind of looked like some sort of a police officer, but disformed, like the shapes were not right. He kind of looked like his like upper body was bigger than it should be. He had no arm, and his face was a bit contorted, but not much. It's not like the scariest shit I've ever seen, but it was still freaky to see that someone's behind me. But when I turned around, there was no one there. But when I looked back into the mirror, he was still there. And whenever I made a step and then looked back into the mirror, he would always be at the same distance behind me, like he teleported with me. I didn't hear any movement, so I tried to ignore the mirrors, but the problem was that the tiles, I guess, that were also on the wall were reflective, and I could see him in those reflections as well, that he was behind me. So I started running, but he was constantly at the same distance. he didn't attack me or anything throughout this entire nightmare, but it still freaked me out a bit. That's when I started noticing that at some points and in some parts of this bathroom, I would see like these weird deformed figures that looked like they were cardboard cutouts. They weren't 3D. They were 2D. I mean, they were 3D, but they were thin like a cardboard. They looked like literally like a cardboard cutouts of some kind of Tim Burton characters. I don't know. They looked like skeletons and shit. Well, not skeletons. They had clothing, but their faces looked pale and thin, and I got pissed off, so I tried to attack some of them. One of them I literally grabbed and tossed around a bit. The other one I tried to summon lightning from the sky to strike, but he moved away from before the lightning before the lightning strike descended from the heavens, I suppose. Well, it's more like a magical circle, because usually that's what I use when I create lightning. I don't know why. It just seems simpler than summoning clouds and whatnot. And to be honest, I don't really recall how that ended. I know that at some point, while, you know, doing exactly what I've been doing so far, just going through the bathroom, I finally realized, like, I'm not so good at realizing dreams anymore. I finally realized it was a dream, and I just forcibly woke myself up. And when I woke up, I was thirsty. And there was not enough water in my pint, so I had to go to the bathroom to pour some more water so I could hydrate myself. So that's why I didn't sleep very well tonight, and that's why I probably sound even worse than I usually do. Yeah, I was trying to recall those dreams before I went back to sleep, basically, so that I could retell them this morning, since I didn't have my notebook ready. And that's gonna be essentially it for this episode, 22 minutes approximately. I had another dream this night, but that dream I'll actually say in the next episode, because I have another nightmare to speak of. This nightmare happened a few days ago, but I still recall it pretty well. It's another one of those, like I said, not reoccurring, but more like Inception nightmare type shit. But for now, I guess this is it for episode number 5, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.